That's some groovy intro music.
Groovy.
Yeah. Some sweet chops there in that song.
Yeah.
All right.
Pete the Cat would love it.
Yeah. I don't know what that is, but
It's a kid's book.
good. Then I'm glad I don't know what it is.
Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons.
Well, that's a band name if I've ever heard one. All right, welcome to the show. I'm Ben Oliver.
I'm Justin Plant.
We are the co-founders of Storyboard Media and your wonderful hosts for another, 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever, 20?
Yeah.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Today we're going to be talking about event video, so I have a feeling we could kind of blow through it, or potentially that's a thing that we could kind of get fired up on. And I think there's some common misconceptions about event video that we like to kind of tear into. Maybe we'll get to that and give everyone that satisfaction. But I hear we have a new sponsor this week.
We do. It just came in. Here it is. Waffles.
Wow. All right.
Big waffle.
Oh, big waffle.
Yeah, but they don't like to seem. They don't want to seem like a conglomerate,
Right.
trade association or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But also they don't want to confuse it with normal sized waffles. They want
I get
people
that.
just to So
It's a Belgian company, right? Or consortium, I suppose, of companies?
Yeah, more of a consortium.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome to our new host, Waffle. Okay, so as we mentioned, today we're talking about event video, and I think it actually kind of makes sense to start by defining what it is we mean when we're talking about event here, because there are a lot of events that companies can attend, host, whatever. I think it's important to kind of define what we're talking about today as like user conferences, like pre-conferences, something basically that maybe a seminar, something that your company is hosting and putting on and inviting people to.
Yep.
Not something that someone else is hosting and throwing and that you're maybe exhibiting at or something like that. I mean, like a trade show or something like that. That has its own issues, and I'm sure someday we can get into those. I mean, it's worth mentioning that the big thing about those kinds of things is that nobody's paying attention and nobody can hear.
Yeah. I mean, so like just to put it in perspective, like if we were attending NAB and had a booth at NAB, we would. It's not about our video. It's about what NAB would be producing for that event.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So that's kind of how we're framing this.
Okay.
What did you just say? That way? That people can't hear anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you get to the trade show floor and people are, they're just happy to not be at the office, I think. Some people are there maybe to meet 2 or 3 people in kind of prearranged networking things, and everyone else is there just to walk around and look at, I don't know, what's cool in booths and stuff like that.
And those booty shorts that they always have people in.
That's true.
Isn't that weird? It feels like we're past that.
It's like there's an entire cottage industry in Las Vegas of like trade show booth models.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess consider your audience. Yes, I think we should be that, and we're all better than that, but it doesn't seem to be stopping trade show exhibitors from putting attractive women out in front of their booth and saying, "Hi, come talk to me," and then handing you off to like the regional sales manager.
Who knows something.
Yeah. Maybe we should just stick on that topic. No?
I think
I think we've fully explored it. Well, thanks for joining us today. Shortest episode ever. All right. So, user conferences, pre-conferences, seminars, things like that.
What do you mean by pre-conference?
Well, like a pre-conference, like I don't like naming our clients and former clients.
No, but
so
if you like attach yourself to NAB and you have your own thing at a hotel next door.
Like we have a former client who used to host 2 days of workshops and breakout sessions and keynotes, like the Monday and Tuesday before a big industry conference started on a Wednesday, something like that.
Yeah.
So, there's a big industry conference at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and you've got like Ballroom C at Caesars or something like that. And so you invite all of your people or all of your clients, customers, prospects, whatever.
Everybody's already there for the industry.
They're already going. You just get them to come out a couple days early and attend your event.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by pre-conference. Again, it's something that you're programming, you're hosting, you're inviting people to, and you've kind of got control over it. So I think what most people think of in those scenarios then, of course, is the event recap video.
You got to have it.
No, you don't, in fact. This is the part where we start to tear into a misconception that we hate. We should have like a sound effect for like preachy moment warning. If that says preachy moment better than anything, we could like royalty-free license as a sound effect. So, Anthony, if you could just like clip that and sample that and use that as our preachy moment sound effect, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I hate event recap videos.
Tell me more.
It's really nothing more than a pat on the back for the event planner. Let's be honest. I mean, I imagine there are at some point some event planners listening to this video because they're listening to this podcast because they saw, event video and they're like, oh yeah, let me learn how to do this. And so I might alienate those people. But that event recap video is essentially pointless because the way I see it, anybody who didn't go to your event probably chose not to be there for a reason. And so they're not that interested in what maybe they missed out on. And anybody who was there has a nominally functioning brain and probably remembers what happened 2 weeks ago anyway.
Right.
It's not to say that you shouldn't capture what the event was like and use it in promotional stuff for next year. Exactly. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. But like that whole take a look at what we just did 2 weeks ago kind of thing is so often like the leading point for somebody to reach out to a video production company and say, hey, can I hire you to come shoot some B-roll and some interviews so that we can do a recap video after the fact? And like, I know there are a lot of companies that make a lot of money doing that, and that's fine, but it just, I don't know. I
don't care to watch them. I never have. Because I mean, even if I've been to the event, I just don't care.
Well, and I can't tell one from the other. I mean, like it's almost enough to inspire me to create a stock video site that only caters to event video, where you just have people like the backs of people's head and someone on a poorly lit stage with a presentation, and you get a couple different people on a stage and a whole bunch of empty chairs. You get like
noises,
100 like clips of that. You need like 200 clips of the networking mixer, which is basically just people standing around shaking hands with like a little saucer in their hand and
poorly
like
lit.
Poorly lit and getting slightly drunker. Maybe that's how you create a little narrative arc to that whole thing, is your networking mixer. Actually, you see people start sober and then just get drunker and drunker and drunker.
I think part of our like mild hatred for those is because
this is mild hatred, by the way.
Is because they're like, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're just bored with them. It's like if someone out there has thoughts as to why this is a relevant video, I'm open to hearing it. I just I do get very bored with them, and I don't see a lot of value in it for our clients. So and most of our clients, when we talk to them about it, they end up saying, "Yeah, we don't need that. Take it off the invoice or whatever."
Yeah, and I mean I see. I mean, you can get into office politics and budgeting and all kinds of stuff like that. I know that oftentimes the video that's captured at an event comes out of the event's budget as opposed to the general marketing budget, and so maybe that's just what you have to do to make the events people happy, is give them a, hey, here's a pat on the back, look what you did, good job kind of thing. But yeah, it just end of rant segment, I suppose.
Let's take a step back. So that's the most accessible version of event video. But let's take a step back and think about the categories. There's 3 categories, right?
Yep. It starts with getting butts in the seats.
All right, so promoting the event.
Yes. And then once you've got those butts in the seats, you've got to keep them there.
Okay.
Right? So there's kind of making video a part of your event.
Yes, okay.
Right?
Yep.
To battle the whole attrition thing. And then there's taking advantage of whose butts are there to extend the butt thing, right?
That sounds... Take advantage. Yeah.
I said what I said. Taking advantage of the butts that are there.
Okay.
Okay, so
I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, essentially, you'll be disappointed because that's leveraging who's attending, right?
Right.
It's most likely your best clients, your best prospects,
Your partners.
your best partners, those kinds of people.
Yeah.
So how can you actually take advantage of all those people being in one room over 1 or 2 days when usually they're scattered around the country or world or whatever? So yeah, I mean, let's start at the top, right? You got to get people there. So let's talk about promoting your event a little bit. I think it starts with, for me, it starts with how expensive these events are to host, right? I mean, there are a lot of resources that go into these things.
Yes.
And even if you're charging a registration fee, you're lucky to break even if you're charging a registration fee, basically.
On the event.
On the event, yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's certainly the potential for a ton of return, and that's why companies do them. But it's more of an indirect return, right? It's deepening those relationships, closing deals that have been, in the pipeline for a while.
Building company culture, because I think a lot of these events now are very experience oriented too.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of companies do them also, especially in the space that we typically work in with like tech companies. Tech companies put a lot of effort into humanizing their brand, right? And this is a way to spend a day or two with the engineers, the developers, the executives, the salespeople, the support people, right? I mean, people have relationships with their customer support people, but they never see them in person. This is a chance for them to actually see each other in person, and not just about, hey, this went wrong, or how do I do this, or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of value in hosting these events. It's just very expensive to do. And so you've got to get as much out of it as you can. And so you've got to get as many of those clients, prospects, and partners there as possible. So promoting the event is largely about getting people there, right?
Yep. Getting
people there so that you can get that return back on the event. What might some ideas be to promote your event? Is this something you want to is this something that you'd recommend just doing one video and throwing it out like 2 weeks before the event? Or
I mean, you have to think about who's watching this and where they are. If they're a prospect, you're going to have to almost beg them to come. I mean, those are the people the prospects are the people that you really want to be there so that you guys can start to grow a relationship. Second, I think, is getting your current customers there so you can also grow those relationships. But
and I think too, getting the prospects there with your existing customers, let them talk.
Right.
Let your customers sell your product. These are prospects who are likely a little bit further along in their journey, and so they're aware of a lot of things. And this is like, this is an effort to, maybe you've given them free registration, right? And this is an effort to help close them.
Yep.
Right. And so forget the salesperson that's been talking to them on the phone for 3 months or whatever. Introduce them to those clients. Have them there to watch those client presentations and have that kind of light bulb moment. Aha, we could do that. Let me go find Jeff.
Right.
And let's talk about, finalizing this deal or whatever.
Yeah. And then partners too, I think, they're great people to have there speaking and whatnot. So there are those variety of people that you're going to invite. Most of them.
What do you mean by partners?
Partners. So if you're a software company and you integrate with another type of software so that you can kind of grow feature sets based on that partnership, or provide more value kind of across the board to your clients. That's what I mean by partners. So you integrate with a particular media software and anything else. Yeah.
Okay. So someone who might be kind of the middle user.
Yes. It could also be someone who is almost like so we're an agency partner for Vidyard. Mm-hmm. If Vidyard had an event, they might invite us to attend that because we're some thought leaders in the space of video, and we can either provide content for that event and talk about how we've brought customers, customers that we both have, right? Mm-hmm. Both have in common, how we've helped them grow their business by using video strategically. So that's another opportunity for partnerships, I think, there.
Well, I think that brings up a good point too, is the company that's hosting the event, I think, the people that they program to speak at it, they get to own that thought leadership too. Right. So there are people, like, we may have a different perspective than Vidyard because we're not trying to sell a video hosting platform. We're about developing and executing strategies for video for B2B companies, right? So we may have a slightly narrower focus or something that's a little bit of an offshoot than Vidyard does. And so we have an expertise outside of their specific expertise. And so we get to bring more value to that. But because they're the ones who basically own the stage, they still get to own that thought leadership that we're providing, I think. And I think that, and I also think, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about structuring events, but from the ones I've attended, the good ones seem to have that mix of like internal people giving presentations on product updates, things like that. Current customers who are saying, here's a use case, here's an interesting scenario we had and a solution that we were able to find through this product, service, whatever. And then the third thing, which I forgot.
The partners who have some sort of tangential service.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe the key to filling the gap between where a prospect is and
right.
closing the deal.
Right.
Yes. So where might those different audiences and how might those different audiences consume some content that would be asking them to attend this event?
Well, so one thing you asked before, I think is important about posting something a couple weeks before the event. All these different people who are going to attend, they've got to, first of all, if they're not the boss, convince their boss that they need to take a couple days off and spend money on plane tickets and hotel reservations and travel,
time out of the office.
Yep. And so those are some of the things that you have to combat. So there's like a time element. You've got to get out in front of this thing far enough where you can let people have those discussions internally and make those decisions and still get a decent fare on their hotel. If there are even hotels left.
Right.
Also, what is the value of that event for that organization? So even if only one person is going, can they come back and bring some of that knowledge back to that company and that company benefits? What other kind of like pockets of like value props for the?
I think for the existing clients, I think. All right, so I don't know. One of my former jobs, it was very acronym heavy, and one of the things that we talked about when working with our partners was the value we provided as an outside partner was to help them deepen, attract, and retain, DAR. So for me, the deepen thing was really about deepening relationships with existing clients. So the opportunity there is to, even if you can only get one person from an existing client, the opportunity is to get them to see something outside of, like, take off the blinders that they usually have on in terms of their daily use of the product or whatever, or service, whatever it is, right? See some other use cases, because so many products and services these days have so many different applications, and there's just a single point purchase and a single need that companies come in and this is what I needed to satisfy, what I need to satisfy with this. But there's so many opportunities for that to help their company that sometimes it just takes getting somebody out of the office in a ballroom and hearing someone else talk about those opportunities. So I think for existing clients, the value is in how can we get more out of this thing that we're already paying potentially a lot of money for. For the prospects, I think it's more about kind of, I see it as more of a closing opportunity, right? So these are people who need to be told, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from some of our top users. You've got to justify the time by saying you're going to be able to network with existing clients, with some of our other partners, right? So that you can kind of come at that whole sales cycle from a couple different angles than maybe you have before. And then I think it's important for your partners to be there, because your partners are a lot like your clients. They may have specific use cases that they use, but they're there to hear about other examples, other ways that other partners or clients have used it, so that you can prompt that lightning bulb moment. And so I think with each audience, you want to kind of set up those different value props and put them each in front of them, put each one that's relevant to that audience in front of them. Instead of, here are all the reasons to come.
Right.
Maybe it's, here's one about the people you're going to meet.
Exactly.
Here's one about the presentations you're going to hear. Here's one about our product updates that you're going to hear about before the public. Those kinds of things. But not everybody cares about all those things. You've got to be very selective and very specific, and in presenting the right value props to those right audiences.
And each of those audiences has a different channel through which they will get that video, right? So your prospects are probably going to receive any sort of video content promoting the event from a salesperson or from like some sort of retargeting situation. If they visited a product page or watched some of your stuff on YouTube, whatever. Or even search for particular terms. The current clients are probably going to get invited through account management, and so account management or whatever you would call that there at your company, they need to be able to access that content, the video content, and share that appropriately, and that can also be distributed through like LinkedIn and other channels, of course, more publicly. And then the partners, most companies, if you have a partnership program, there's somebody running that who can distribute that through a simple email campaign, or send out personalized, like, hey, you guys have a really cool story with client X. We'd like you to come bring that story.
I think that's the key. I imagine that's the key with partners is keeping those relationships and knowing what those great case studies and use cases are, so that you can actually go to someone and say, hey, you know what, I'd like to have you come to our user con this year and present about this thing that we did, this specific thing. I imagine that's how a lot of the partner at least for the people who are presenting, how those are generated, instead of, hey, we'd like you to speak because we like you.
Well, and by elevating that partner, they have more of an affinity with your product and are more likely to recommend or use or implement that product as well. And I think this is a strategic way to.
And that's another thing about the partners too, is that your audience is likely their audience.
Yes.
Right. To go back to if we were speaking at some kind of Vidyard event, the benefit for us would not only be the lift that we would get from being trusted by Vidyard to give a presentation, but pretty much all the people in that room who are Vidyard customers and prospects are potential prospects of ours too. So there's a lot of value for the, and that's something that's again an angle that you'd want to put in front of a partner that you wouldn't necessarily feel like you should put in front of a customer or a
segmentation
a
is really important.
So I think we brought it up. This will now be the third time, but we haven't actually gotten to it. So you need to throw some stuff out there more than 2 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
Right. I think the right way to do this is to consider. It's really to consider the journey that each of those personas take to attending the event, just like you would consider the journey that they take to purchase your product, right? Or whatever, right? Like what, and all those things that you've got at your disposal, post-event surveys, things like, all those kinds of things, picking up the phone and talking to prior attendees, what helped you decide to come, when did you book, when did you register, all those kinds of things to understand that people need, and I think this is what you were trying to get at earlier, is they need to make these decisions that are not just their own personal decisions, yes, I want to attend this, but then they often have to get buy-in, approval, whatever from someone else. So you've kind of got to map out a long-term campaign and go from announcing here are the dates and times.
Date, time, location.
Location of this year's event.
Yep.
All the way through, hey, for you, laggards, remember in 3 weeks, here's our event and here's our speaker lineup, right? You're kind of making and then everything in between, which are those value props that need to be presented, opportunities to convince their boss, maybe helping them understand where to stay, even all those things that you're kind of putting out there I mean, why not put it out there in video content too?
Another kind of element to add to that timeline is obviously the early registration and couple seats left, in that spectrum. So those are things that can be...
Well, and each of those, I mean, God knows, every event has like 4 different stages of early bird registration, right? Well, each one of those trigger points, each one of those expiration dates is an opportunity to create a sense of urgency and put something else out there. So even if you just mapped your kind of video campaign release dates to those early bird registration deadlines, that's better than, again, just making one thing and throwing it out a month before the event, something like that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the opportunities for personalized video with events, because I think events are a great use case for personalized video.
Okay.
So tell the people who don't know what personalized video is.
It can be done in a couple different ways. It can be done on a very one-to-one basis where I record something for you, Ben, and this is exactly only for you. That's very personal, and that's like is about as intimate and personal, not intimate, but about as personal as it can get. Another opportunity is for personalization at scale, where you would use tools that that could insert someone's name or their company or their job title, whatever, into fields in the video, and you would essentially just have your CRM integrate with your video hosting and mesh all that stuff together so that it kind of creates this like what seems like a very personalized video for you, and still that's still such a novelty, even though I think most people understand that it's a scaled piece of technology. Sure. It's still it's still attention grabbing. It is, and I can't not click a thumbnail that says welcome to welcome to Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and I think the reason personalization works so well with events too is there's this psychological angle too of kind of an invitation, right? Like you have to register, you have to sign up, you have to make plans to attend, you likely have to travel. Like there's something that gets very, very personal. It just provides a lot of personal opportunities to say, I want you there. Even if you can tell that this thing is going to 1,000 people, because it has your name, it's an indication that at least I'm on your list of people that you want to attend this thing. And yes, I'm still surprised by how many people are out there who haven't received a personalized video, and they're just blown away by these things.
Every time, I would say 95% of the time I send out personalized videos, they're like, holy shit.
I mean, we've seen that in some of the marketing and sales sequences you've done. We've done personal videos that aren't to an individual person, right? Where you're saying things that because we've segmented a list, it's specific to a type of person. And you've also done videos where you've actually got like on a whiteboard or on the marquee thing like their name. Yep. And you greet them by name, and you get so much more response on the ones that are personalized and individualized than the ones that are just kind of segmented properly, even though they're both you looking into the camera and talking and saying a specific message that's relevant to that person.
Thumbnail is key.
Okay.
In that element, it is. Because if it's just me on camera without your name there, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But if I put Ben, then it means a lot more. So.
Yeah, it certainly, and I mean, I receive them too. And the ones where it's just a video thumbnail, I'm happy to see that somebody's using video and email, and I'm happy to see that somebody's putting a thumbnail instead of just a link in there. But the ones that have my name or a screenshot of our website, if they're trying to sell us, SEO services or whatever it is, those are the ones I click on. Like I even know what's going on. Right. I know what the other side of the curtain looks like, and I still interact with those.
But I want to know.
Yeah. And anything you can do to increase engagement rates, right, click-throughs, that kind of thing, then it's going to be worth it. Because again, it's all about getting butts in the seats. Okay, so we've got people at our event.
All right.
Now we need to keep them there.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that so attrition is a huge problem, a huge issue that event planners have to go up against. I mean, imagine going to
Vegas.
I was going to go with like San Francisco, but why do that? Go with Vegas.
Sure.
And say, I would like for you to get your boss to pay for you to come to Vegas for 2 days. And yet I expect you to come sit in Ballroom C of Caesar's Palace instead of do Vegas.
Right. Blinking lights, noises, strippers, and oxygen pumping, like all that stuff. The good
all
food.
Those distractions. That city is. I honestly don't understand why so many I do understand why so many conferences happen, but it's like, my God, it's an uphill battle.
It is.
To say this work-related, sitting in a chair for 9 straight hours is more valuable than all of the sinful opportunity that's just outside this door. So so it's so easy for people to, and even it's just easy for people to, take phone calls and reply to emails and things like that, right? I mean, you've essentially paid a lot of money to put on this thing to get them there at the event. So you want them to pay attention to the content that you're doing. And so I think we think there are a lot of ways for video to be a part of your overall programming, just to make it more interesting, make it more engaging, inform, entertain, and educate them during presentations, in between presentations, tease the networking mixer that's coming up, tease the keynote speaker that's coming at the end of the day. Give them reasons throughout the day to plan to attend the rest of what's going on, to stick around, basically. And so I think every event has some kind of projection screen on it, right? Because every presenter has some kind of keynote or PowerPoint that they're probably going to deliver. So it's just so easy, since those are usually just up there at the front of the room where everybody's automatically facing anyway, to take advantage of those lulls during bathroom breaks, smoke breaks, in between presentations, to put information up there that's either funny or fun or interesting. I mean, when we attended, we talk about video a lot. When we attended Viewtopia a couple years ago, I mean, I still have the pictures on my phone that I took of their kind of crawl that was going on in between the kind of rolling stats. Like, I mean, because they picked interesting ones, right? Like, you can absorb, the average person can absorb 60,000 times as much information through video than through audio over the same amount of time. Like, really interesting stuff that kind of kept me watching. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when movie theaters, maybe they still do this, used to do like the trivia quizzes in between ads before movies kind of thing, right? You kind of keep your eye on the screen to, be able to answer that next trivia question faster than the person you're there with. But guess what? You watch the ads that are happening because you're waiting for that next one to come up. It's kind of the same idea. They're focusing their attention up there, and you get to keep them in their seats.
It also saves the CEO or the president or the CMO or whatever from having to grab the mic and be up on stage in between every situation. They can actually be out there talking to people instead of having to think about, what's next? Are we on schedule? Whatever. Like, you got the video there. It's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another fun opportunity too, is with some of your key speakers or all of your presenters, whatever it is, why not do a fun video intro that, I mean, take some, like walk-up music, right? Like baseball players, they walk to the plate and they've got their song that's playing, whatever. Like, find out what their walk-up music would be. Have whoever's got the best voice in the office, like, do a little, like, boxing type intro, like, and next to the stage from, I mean, why not start off a presentation like that instead of, like, having your regional sales manager take the mic and say, hello, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I'd like to welcome our next presenter, which, I mean, that's just snooze fest, right? Like,
Right.
why not have a little bit of fun with it, right? And entertain them, jazz it up. I think the presenter's probably going to come on stage with more energy if they've had that walk-up music. I haven't seen it at a whole lot of events, so I imagine, people who speak often, and might as well give them that extra little bit of energy before they go into their 20-minute PowerPoint presentation.
Sorry, I was a little unengaged because I was looking for the. I remember we pitched we pitched an opening hype video and then struck through hype.
Yes.
So do you remember that enough to talk about it?
Yeah, I think I think the basic premise.
Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead. If you've got it, then go ahead.
The description here in the pitch was, let's be honest, while these events are fun and educational, it's not like we're going to Monday Night Football or a Metallica concert, so let's treat this accordingly. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun with it and get people excited about the day ahead. We're just going about it a different way. It's a short-form video projected at the event. Our audience may not connect to a rip-roaring, pyrotechnic-fueled hype video, but it doesn't mean they aren't open to being inspired and energized.
Yeah, I think that's just self-awareness, right? Brands are so often like not thinking about what can we actually pull off, right? So they try to go big.
Didn't like Microsoft or something have like U2 open up and then you pan to the crowd and everyone was just kind of sitting there?
Yes, I don't know if that happened, but I imagine that has happened.
Yeah.
Yes. In the same token, you don't want to have Steve Ballmer come out yelling and going all kinds of crazy to hype everyone up, because then everybody's just like kind of doing the shifty eye, like, are you seeing this? Is this happening?
Nobody wants to be the first person to stand up and headbang.
Yeah.
They're all just gonna sit there. So understand that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean don't make it. Don't not hype it, but don't try to bring art. We're sitting in Ballroom C. I'm here with an ice water and the pad, and a notepad, and the pen,
and my little key,
and my lanyard that were provided to me, and I know I'm going to be sitting here all day.
Yep.
Don't insult me and try to make it seem like this is a U2 concert.
Yeah.
When really I know I'm here for best practices on X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. If nothing else, I think it just sets up false expectations for the rest of the day.
Yeah. One of the best uses of video that I've ever experienced was actually a company that I worked for. When I was in the mortgage business, we had our national sales conference one year in, I want to say San Diego, I think it was. And one of the things that they did really well was after lunch every day, I think it was a 2 or 3 day conference, after lunch every day, they would come back in with something that was basically, the topic was the subject was always salespeople, like individual salespeople around. And the one that I remember was one of the days after lunch, there was this 10-minute sequence of salespeople from around the country telling their horror stories. And one of them was a woman who was telling this embarrassing story about how she'd called a broker, gotten the voicemail, left the voicemail, gave him the answer he wanted, put down her phone, and turned the radio back up and started singing along with the radio. And then a few minutes later, a call came in from the guy that she just left a message for, and he said, "I loved your message, you're a great singer." And she realized that she had not hung up the phone before starting to sing along with the radio, and that was all on the voice. And just to hear other salespeople say, look, it's not all great, right? Sometimes you make stupid decisions. It was just such a great way to kind of ease back in from lunch and then get to whatever the next keynote was or something like that. There are just so many opportunities to capture those moments and keep people, kind of engaged throughout. Anything else on kind of video at the event?
I think we covered it.
Okay. Then kind of our third main point here is I'll say it again, taking advantage of the butts that are there.
Gotcha.
And this, I think, is the biggest opportunity that's missed by a lot of companies. There are clients, prospects, and partners that are likely your best clients, your best partners, and some of your prospects who are probably closest to close, all in one place for a day or 2 days. This is the only time this happens. They're scattered around the country or the world the other 364 days of the year. This is where you've got everyone in one place. How can you best take advantage of that opportunity to create not event video, but marketing video, videos for sales, videos for customer success, right? How can you take advantage of those people and get them to be a part of that additional content that you can create that you can use the rest of the year, whether it's about the event or not?
When you said this is one of the biggest opportunities that companies miss, I think a lot of times it's not that they don't interview some of these people, it's that they only think about it the day of. And they're like, oh,
yes,
can you get Roger from company Y because he's got this cool thing, and then you're in the middle of the showroom floor, or like the hallway or wherever, where there's a couple tables and people walking, and it's
the
noisy,
sound's terrible,
lighting sucks, and you got this Roger there with his lanyard on, and he's stunned. He doesn't know what you're about to ask him. You don't know what you're gonna ask him, and you end up getting crap out of it.
And or you're trying to get so much out of those interviews, you jump back and forth between, so how are you enjoying UserCon 2019? And tell me about a problem that your company was able to solve with our product.
Yeah.
And like why not, since you know who's already registered, identify ahead of time which of those clients, partners, and maybe even prospects you want to interview, and talk to them beforehand about some of their experiences.
Yep. And then what?
And then schedule them at particular times throughout the event to come and talk to you about a very specific list of questions that you've developed based on your pre-interview. I just did air quotes. Nobody can see that. Your pre-interview of them.
Where might you do that?
Where might you do
the interview?
The actual interviews?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably do it in ballroom D, the one that's not a breakout session or something like that. I certainly wouldn't do it in the hallway. You've probably booked a whole section of the venue anyway, so you've got unused space. Set it up as a studio. Green screen it. Maybe there's a nice library. Bring in some props. Whatever it is, make it look like it's not at.
Many times it can just be a hotel room that is designed in a specific way that it looks less like a hotel room. It could just even be simply some neutral density filters on the window and see the skyline behind him.
Yeah.
But you've got an audio controlled, lighting controlled room where this person can be brought in. They can get some makeup if they need it. They can feel comfortable. It's a Class A experience for your clients and for your customers or your partners. And that's way better than just throwing them in front of a camera, some guy holding God knows what camera, and it just looks and sounds like crap.
Yeah, and so often it's so hard to get to wrangle people the day of. Right? If you haven't had a conversation, I think a lot of people too who have a lot to say are also a little bit timid about being on camera. So even if they've got some great stories and you just try to pluck them out of an audience or pluck them out of a conversation that they're having, or they're grabbing coffee outside of the main ballroom, they're probably not going to say yes because they're just intimidated by being on camera. This is an opportunity to not just for you have that pre-interview, but also for them, so that they know what kind of things you might ask them about. They've already answered once, and even if they don't think about it between that pre-interview and when you're actually filming them, they've already kind of compiled their thoughts.
In the worst case scenario,
and when you ask them again, they'll remember a little bit about how they answered before.
In the best case scenario, they'll bring a lot more to that conversation. They'll bring statistics. They'll bring like actual real world examples. They'll dig up whatever information they need to make that a better story, because they want to look good on camera. You want them to look good on camera. All that work ahead of time is why pre-production exists. Is why how important that is.
Well, and that that gets to too, just putting a plan in place, right? I mean, it's easy to say put a plan in place for how you're going to promote it, put a plan in place for how you're going to use video. But like when you get to the actual event, have a plan in place. So many companies just get like 2-3 weeks out prior to the event.
Hire a production
They
company.
hire a local production company and they say,
Who does event video.
who does event video. And all they're doing is capturing some B-roll, getting some kind of on-the-fly interviews, and then, see what they can come up with. Because so often it's not, hey, we need to make sure that we can put together a video with clips about topic A. There's not that level of thought put into it. And so then it's up to the video producers to just kind of roam, keep shooting, and then figure out in the edit what maybe we can put together with this.
And sifting through hours and hours of 4K footage, I mean, that's so many hard drives, that's so many SD cards, that's so much time and energy it takes. If you know what you're going to end up with at the end, you shoot for that and you get that.
And it doesn't even have to be super detailed. Like any competent production company would be able to take a list of potential or likely deliverables, right? It'd be really great if we could get some of our clients talking about this, and another video, some of our clients talking about this, and a video with our partners talking about their relationship with us. Even if those are only the 3 bullet points you give that production company, they're going to be able to, as long as you give it to them before the day of, as long as you give it to them before the first interview, they'll probably be able to craft some questions instead of just waffling. Which reminds me, we have a new sponsor this week. Waffle.
Waffles.
Is it waffles?
Waffles, yeah.
Waffles. Okay, I think the other thing about during your event is, and I think I mentioned it a little earlier too, is owning the thought leadership of your presenters, right? You own that stage. You're curating that content. You're programming that event. You're deciding who's speaking and what they're speaking about. And so you have the opportunity to take those interesting thoughts, those interesting presentations, and turn that around into gated content even, potentially.
Yeah, we didn't even think about it. We didn't mention that as the most obvious one, too.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a client who we recorded, all the presentations one day. I think there were like 12 presentations one day. We captured with like 3 cameras. We captured all of those presentations, and we knew, and this is another key point, we knew that we were only going to worry about 5 of those. And it was 10 or 12 presentations that happened throughout the day, but we knew that we were only going to deliver 5 because we knew that the mic was going to screw up in one presentation. We knew that PowerPoint wasn't going to work in one. We knew that a presenter or 2 was just going to suck, right? You don't really want to expect that every single presentation is going to be perfect, and also don't take the less than perfect presentations and put them out there. Curate your list of those things so that you can put out there what's valuable to your audience. And then our client turned around, built a landing page for that, and gated each of those videos, and has captured leads as a result with a teaser of a description of the presentation enough to get people to click and put in their email address to watch then that presentation from their partner, their client, whatever it was. That's relatively easy to do.
And even more so, you got that half-hour segment of that client on stage talking about their situation. Then, so you've got that on a landing page, it's gated, great. From that, all you need to do is find 3 or 4 clips that are 12 seconds long that are like, so we got to this issue. We got to this issue, and here's what we did. Right?
End teaser.
Teaser. Mm-hmm. Go here to see the full thing. It's enough to throw up on LinkedIn, even as a promoted ad that, or not, but that will capture someone's curiosity and get them to check it out.
Yeah.
And it's like you get so much more content, but you don't really have to try for it. But you do need to plan for it.
Right. And I think that's, and I think you even need to plan for next year's content, right? Like coming back to the original idea that we had here about, talking about the event video, like there's, just because we don't see value in an event recap video doesn't mean there isn't value in capturing B-roll of the event, right? Because next year you're going to have to create some promotional content to get people to attend your event next year. So you might as well have some footage of what the event actually looked like. I would caution the production companies shooting that stuff to try to keep like time-based things out of the footage. Like, try not to shoot the sign that says UserCon 2019 because it's more likely that footage is going to be used to promote UserCon 2020, and it just feels a little bit off if all the signage is last year. I think you get a little bit of leeway with that, but, you know, maybe just, like, move a little bit and frame the shot slightly differently so that signage isn't in the shot or something like that. I mean, that's super detailed, but... okay, I think that's a pretty good discussion on event video. Is there anything we left out?
I'm sure.
Well, that's true. That's
sure there is.
It's a very healthy way to look at it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on event video. I think everybody at this point knows how to reach us. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
They'll figure it out. These are smart folks.
These are smart folks. That's one thing we know about our audience.
Mm-hmm.
They're smart.
And good looking.
And smell nice.
I can't confirm that.
I can. All right. Well, on that note, I think it's time to start bringing in the outro music.
All right, cue the music.
It's a nice little fade in there. Again, some sweet grooves. That's nice. Yeah.
Still got 4.5 minutes.
We did.
And a whole closet full of waffles.
Waffle. Big waffle.
Some with chocolate, some with caramel. Have you ever...
The waffles or the donuts?
Have you ever been to the waffles? Yeah, they're doing a lot of crazy things with waffles.